I don't like planes. Not really. Whenever I travel, I tend to take the car, or, if need be, I'll even charter a ferry to wherever I need to go. Luckily, the company I work for doesn't send me on business trips often, and on the rare occasion they do send me somewhere, a few hours' journey by car usually works out fine. I don't really know why I don't like planes. It's not that I don't like the idea, no. I think being able to travel faster is a good thing. It's not the height either. I've been on mountains and the edges of cliffs, and I've never had a problem. But the second I step inside a plane, well, it always scared me. So imagine my shock and horror when I was told that I had to go on a business trip to the other side of the world, and that I'd have to take a plane. At least it was first class and paid for by the company I work for. It probably helps that the airline is owned by the company too, but that's not important. Anyway, I had just arrived at the airport when I began to feel it. Fear, paranoia, and all the other fun bits that come with it. My hands began to drip with sweat as I inevitably passed security, and by the time I had managed to make my way all the way to my gate, I was a nervous mess. I was practically drenched in sweat by the time I got there, and I was clutching my beige little briefcase close to my chest. "Hey, are you okay?" asked a young woman in what looked like an expensive dress. "First time in a plane?" "No," I replied. "I just don't like planes." "Oh, same," the woman replied. "I'm Maisie Krylov. You?" "I'm Sage Carnosa. Sage Carnosa," I replied. "Nice to meet you." So we talked while we waited for boarding, and I got to know the woman, Maisie. She usually took cruises and boats and loved to spend time in the ocean, away from everything else. But a complication in her travel itinerary had now forced her to take a plane. I told her about my business trip and that I loved taking road trips instead. I told her that I just couldn't find out why I was so needlessly scared of flying, and she simply replied that I'd hopefully find a way to get over it. Eventually, they called for boarding, and very soon I was seated on my flight, surrounded by lots and lots of people. When the flight took off, I was surprised to find that I wasn't afraid anymore. It was the strangest thing, like meeting that woman had somehow made my fear of flight disappear. So I kicked back, relaxed, put on a movie, and very soon I found myself asleep. And then it happened. Turbulence. I found myself shot away as the plane shook, as if it was grounded, and that an earthquake had hit the airport. I caught sight of my window and saw that we were in a storm. Rain crashed against the window, lightning ripped throughout the sky. I sighed and returned to my seat, and then realized that something was wrong. I was alone. Everyone was gone. It was just me in the air, alone. For a second, I wondered if my eyes deceived me, so I rubbed them, only to confirm the fact that I was the only one on the plane. Alone. Before I fell asleep, the plane was filled to the brim, overflowing even, as they had to remove some people from the flight. But now, everyone was simply gone. The young man next to me had completely vanished, yet his backpack, which he had taken out, was on the floor, open. Despite the seatbelt warning, I took off the belt and stood up, and began to look around. Everywhere I saw wrappers, plastic plates, and more. Backpacks were left in aisles, tablets and laptops on chairs. Everyone had vanished and left their stuff behind. Or was it me who had vanished and was now alone? I began to walk around to look for any signs of life. Yet, wherever I went, I saw nothing. I looked at the overhead screens that displayed the location and time until arrival. Those looked normal, and didn't look wrong. I walked over to the lavatories, and I noted someone was using one. So I knocked on the door, hoping for an answer. Yet there was nothing, and so I pressed my head to the door, only to hear nothing. I took my phone, and I tried to see if I could get a connection. The plane said the ticket came with Wi-Fi, but it seemed like it was working. Instead, it just said reconnecting. So I put it back in my pocket. I made my way up to first class, hoping to find any sign of life there. I remembered that the woman, Maisie, had said she was in first class, and even offered to upgrade my ticket, so I hoped she was there. So I made my way up to her seat, only to discover that there was nothing there. No wrappers, no meal, nothing. Earlier, I'd passed her while heading to my seat, and I noted she'd put her luggage in the overhead compartment. But now, as I checked, I discovered that there wasn't anything there. No luggage, just empty space, as if she had never existed to begin with. Had I hallucinated the woman? But I was sure she was real, right? And if everyone was gone, then who was flying the plane? No, who would land it? I practically sprinted to the doors leading to the cockpit of the plane. Nobody stopped me as I ran through the rows of empty seats. Movies played without anyone to watch them. Chess games stood at standstill, forever locked in place. And then I finally arrived at the doors. There was a small window that I could look into the cockpit, luckily, but what I saw just served to confuse me even more. At first, I thought I saw two people, the pilots hopefully, but as I looked closer, I realized that they weren't moving. It was like they were statues. That's when lightning illuminated the scene, and I realized that it wasn't people in the seats, but mannequins. Lifeless and dull mannequins, faceless and unmoving. "What the hell?" I gasped, confused, and I turned around, only to discover that where every single seat there was once nothing was now filled with lifeless, faceless mannequins. They looked like they were pretending to be people, and were positioned as if they were watching movies, playing games, except for one small detail. They all had their heads turned to me. I didn't know what to do, so I ran, but everywhere I looked, there they were, 1,000 faceless things all turned to watch me, and yet they didn't move, staying in place, their heads turned to watch where I'd been before. I swore loudly as I locked myself in the lavatory, hiding from the things, and then, like 1,000 raindrops crashing against the door, the knocks came. Small, plastic, and unnatural. I saw silhouettes of the things that weren't people knocking on the door, again and again. They squeaked as they moved, like a lousy bed frame. They didn't stop either, just kept knocking and knocking, as if it was just someone else needing to use the lavatory. I took out my phone, and was both relieved and terrified when it told me there was an hour left until I'd reach my destination. And that's where I kept myself, in the small lavatory, waiting for it all to be over. It felt like an eternity. Time seemed to lengthen as I waited, each second being counted by a knock on the door. I tried to distract myself, to listen to music, yet nothing was loud enough to drown out the sounds of 1,000 knocks. See, and then the scratching started. They were now pouring at the door, trying to get me. I knew nothing but pure terror at that time. The noise was horrible and wrong, and the sounds began to distort, almost as if I was hearing it all underwater. It got louder and louder, and nothing could drown it out. I heard a whisper, or was it the wind, from scratching noises surrounding me, coming from places where I swore it shouldn't have come from. It went on, and the minutes got longer and longer, and the hours seemed to stretch into 2, and then a voice. Human. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived at our destination," a monotone voice announced. "I'm your captain, and I'd like to welcome you to Kasdan City, as well as America." And then I heard the soft rumble of people get up, and so, tentatively, I opened up the door and stepped out to see rows and rows of real people. Not the faceless world of mannequins, but people. Real and actual people. I retreated to my seat, took my items, and followed the steady stream of human life as they drifted off and into the airport. And then I felt a tap on my shoulder, and a familiar yet faraway voice spoke. "Enjoy the flight?" It was the woman, Maisie, the one that didn't exist, the one that wasn't in that strange and empty world. "Yes," I replied, out of breath and confused. "I did." "Glad you enjoyed it," she smirked, responding. "Maybe you should fly more often." I don't think I'll be flying often, or ever again, for that matter.